Last year, I went to this anime convention with the goal of trying to get photos directly from the camera that I could post to all of my social media. I go out there, take photos of cosplayers. It's really fun. I do enjoy it, but it's a lot of work afterwards. And ultimately, the goal would be just to have photos that I could post. Let's take a look at what I said right after the convention. It worked out, potentially, but white balance, at least on this camera, doesn't seem good enough to make it work all the time. I had the picture control settings set to portrait. Hopefully the goal would be that people's faces and such would be exposed properly. There might have been some settings that I missed to make that work as well as possible. Like I think there's a setting where it might prioritize face exposure compared to face and background. I had it set to face and background. Probably not ideal for what I was trying to do. These are the original JPEGs. This is AC/DC Photo Studio Ultimate. If you use Nikon's official software, you might get better results, especially with the RAWs. As I'm going through the photos, a lot of these clearly I wouldn't want to just post straight up. So the little experiment of sorts didn't work too well. Some of them would work. Like this one looks okay. These clearly do not look okay. Really strong difference in light from there to the background. But, you know, it's just the reality of light and many situations. Something like these little shots of the dealer's area, that didn't work out well enough. I'm going to try to edit those. It's good enough, I guess you could say, but really strong golden look to the foreground. I'm going to try to change that. As I scroll down through the photos, pretty much not ideal. So maybe that one setting I missed was vital to kind of make this work. I'm not sure. I'll try to experiment more in the future. Yeah, if you have any comments on how to get the best photos out of the camera, let me know. I'm always interested in learning about your own techniques and what you use with your photography. I use 3 different modes on the camera. 2 of them are aperture priority. One was for action. I'll just go over the aperture priority single release mode, auto area AF with AFC and focus priority on that, so it gets it focused on the eyes. That generally works pretty decently well now with the camera updated to latest firmware and the lenses updated to latest firmware. There are some updates for like the 40 f2. You want to check those out. It doesn't specifically say in the firmware update for that lens that it changed anything important, but I've noticed since I got the lens and currently after that firmware update of everything, it seems to work better. So who knows? That's just my personal experience with it. Vibration reduction is set to normal. There is a sport mode, but I don't use it too much. White balance, auto 1. Again, maybe that was one of the things that I need to consider with this, is try to modify that. But it's hard to deal with so many different situations at conventions where there's various different areas. Even just an adjustment of where you're standing or where you're pointing your camera in one room makes a difference. ISO settings, I had auto ISO, the minimum shutter speed 1/200th of a second, and 16,000 ISO maximum. So that's pretty high for the Z5, but I'm not super particular about noise. As long as it's a photo that's good enough to, you know, understand what it looks like and it's decent, I'm fine with it. And then I set the active D lighting on the camera to auto. I don't know if it really did anything. It's hard to tell, but I would assume that's something to really benefit you to try to get those photos out of camera looking decent. Vignette control is set to normal. Diffraction compensation is set to on. And also auto distortion control was set to on the camera. Generally, I have those turned off so the camera is fast as possible, but if you're trying to get photos out of the camera, it makes sense to turn those on. Even the 40 f2 does have some distortion and such. The JPEG image is on the left, the RAW is on the right. There is a surprising difference between the two. The RAW, obviously there's more vignetting that's being shown. The corrections are doing something. Let's look at the image in detail. They look pretty similar up close. So these lines are more noticeable on the RAW image. You do lose a little bit in the JPEG, it looks like. And this JPEG is a basic, it's not like the ultra fine quality, because again, I was trying to make it like I would potentially just be able to upload them straight from camera if I wanted to. The vignette control, the diffraction compensation, auto distortion control, those things do apply to the image in a way that you can see that it moved the position of things, because this is supposed to be the same exact photo, but it's clearly slightly off. It's darker on the RAW, so that vignette adjustment is actually visible. And you can see the histogram is different between the two photos. Here's a corner of the image. In this case, you can see it is brighter in the JPEG compared to the raw image. It's definitely increasing the exposure to try to deal with that vignette of the 40f2. But overall, they do look pretty similar. I do think the JPEG image is a little bit more pleasing to look at compared to the raw. I do think it's important to try to learn your camera as well as possible in these situations if you do want to try to get the best output from the camera with those JPEGs. Try the settings out, try to find something that works out for you. I don't know if I had covered everything to get the best possible result with the camera in this test at the convention I went to, but it's at least a start to get my mind rolling and trying to think of ways to improve how it's going to look. You potentially use cards or tools like this to help improve your white balance in the field. I don't tend to use these, but I definitely should make an attempt at some point and see if it actually helps. There are also tools that you can use with a bunch of colors on them to help you color correct without having to do it in software manually. There are options. I'm just not super versed on those. Anyways, that was an interesting little test. I wouldn't say it was successful, but I'm trying things out and seeing what I can do. As you can see with that, even back then, I realized it wasn't going to work. The photos still needed quite a bit of editing to make them look decent. White balance is a major issue, and just lighting in general. Yeah, it's not going to be magic unless the camera has really advanced processing in it to basically create artificial photos from whatever lighting and scene you're in at the time. I did go to another convention somewhat recently where I used a friend's light to light the scene, and that is probably the route you really want to go if you want photos from the camera that are going to look decent. Obviously, using an external light, either a constant one or a flash, is going to be more effort, having more stuff to deal with, having a bunch of bulky things. Yeah, so there are going to be trade-offs, but ultimately, using your own lighting will definitely give you a better chance at not having to do as much editing. So the question is, do I really want to spend the time, effort, money, and all of that to use an external light or multiple lights? Have a really fun, simple experience taking snapshots, which is what I honestly prefer for this type of stuff, especially where it's just random cosplayers that I ask to take a photo of, or quality. I don't know. It's tough. I think my ultimate preference would be to go in the direction of something like a Ricoh GR camera. So it'd be really small, really compact, and maybe some type of small little external light. But even then, small light sources are just not going to look as good as a nice, large softbox. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful or helpful. Consider subscribing and such. It'd definitely help out. Scott Jeffrey Bonsai, thanks.